Mishelly Eldest Books. Welcome back to my channel. This is the third installment of the Shadowhunter Chronicles reading vlog. I am so excited for it to be here now. I feel like getting this part of the vlog has taken me forever. I will leave the links to the other videos in this series in the description box below, so you can feel free to go check those out. Now, all of these vlogs have spoilers, so if you haven't read these books, I suggest coming back when you have, and I would love to hear your thoughts. In this vlog, I will be covering the Mortal Instruments, City of Lost Souls. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy this. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, I panicked for a minute. I thought I already filmed this and that I lost footage. Anyways, this is the 5th book in the series. We are almost done with the Mortal Instruments. Where we left off in the last book, we figured out that Lilith had marked Jace. Clary had cut the mark, damaging it, releasing the connection between him and Sebastian. So Jace was himself again. Sebastian died for good. Lilith was killed. All was well and good. You could see the silver lining. And then it literally ends with Clary leaving Jace alone with Sebastian, meeting everyone downstairs. And then I believe it was Alec who went to go check on him, comes back down and says they're missing. Both Jace and Sebastian are missing. Now this book was really good. It got like surprisingly dark as several of our characters deal with more mature relationship things and some personal growth. I always really like that. I'm huge for character development. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm sorry. This video, last 2 books I've been reading through quarantine, it's all been a mess. This video, I'm bouncing around. I know I had started out being very organized with these vlogs, with discussions and breaking them up in a very organized manner, but this one in particular, I feel I'm bouncing all over the place. So I'm gonna apologize, but I think you guys can follow along. Y'all should have already read these books anyway, so you know what I'm talking about. One thing, I thought it was really funny how everyone wound up sleeping at Magnus's house. Of course, Alec was staying there since they're in a relationship together. Izzy wound up there because she was getting away from her parents' drama since they're splitting up. And all of those family issues are really starting to weigh heavily on her. Eventually, Clary and Jocelyn wind up there because Sebastian's attack. I think it makes a really interesting stage, and it's all just like very surprising. And then Simon inevitably winds up there as well because of his relationship with Izzy and his friendship with Clary. And then we'll come back to there. The Clave has decided to quit using their resources to find Jace. They can't track him, and they just have to focus their energy somewhere else. And I know that this was very upsetting to our main cast, but it's understandable why. What can you do, really? Clary, Alec, and Izzy do what they do best and take matters into their own hands. So they take it upon themselves to continue the search for Jace. They seek out the Seelie Queen's help, and she agrees to help if Clary retrieves these gold rings from the Institute and trades them with her for intel. This whole deal was very interesting. By the end, we discover that those 2 rings have a 3rd ring that the Seelie Queen had. And she's been listening in to Simon and Clary's conversation so she can kind of know what they know. According to Sebastian, who's a notorious liar or just spins things, it was the Queen's forethought that Clary would bring the ring to that creepy apartment the entire time. And I guess that would kind of make sense because the Queen seems to always know what's going on. And I guess it's pretty predictable knowing Clary and Jace and their hero complex that it wasn't that big of a stretch of imagination. So it was a good bet. So we learned that the Seelie Queen and Meliorn are on Sebastian's side. This I do not get. I guess we haven't learned a whole lot about the Fae, but it seems ultimately they don't necessarily take sides. They have their own side, and they might end up on one side or the other if it benefits them the most. Since the Fae notoriously have a reputation that their loyalties are very fickle. Even Sebastian himself says this. He specifically says that the Fae like to be on the winning side. So it seems really odd that the Fae would suddenly get so involved in this, but so far this is just what we get from Sebastian, and he likes to talk a big game. He likes to embellish things. His character is just like he could tell the truth, but if he says it in such a way, everyone knows he's a liar. So like, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, whether he's telling the truth or whether he's lying, just everything about him. He's very, he's so frustrating. You cannot get a read on him at all. Like, you don't know what to expect at all. It turns out that Jace is still connected to Sebastian. When we see Jace for the first time, he and Sebastian had gotten into the institute, and they are all chummy and like friends. My heart actually skipped a beat when we saw them prancing in together. I have to say I was really proud of Clary to not make herself known, because of her usual response would be to charge in head first, or at least get Jace's attention. She did run through the probability that maybe Jace was plotting or had a plan, but I never understood why Clary was sneaking in the institute in the first place either. Like, doesn't she have a right to be there? But oh well, it served its purpose. So Clary lies to the others and says that she saw them, but she left the rings. They don't need the Steely Queen's help anymore. I was actually kind of pissed off that she lied about it. She also wasn't exactly in her right mind because she was so distraught about Jace. But she did end up getting the rings, and she contacts Simon, meets him at the Downworlder cafe, and ropes him into her insane plan. Since that's where they decided to do their plotting and discussion of everything that was going on, Kaylee, their server, is a Fae girl. I don't know why, but it made me so nervous. I thought she was going to overhear them, report back to the queen, but nothing came of it. I think that that was intentional for the reader to be like, oh my gosh, because they are not very stealthy. So the apartment. Let's get to the creepy ass apartment. Actually, well, it's creepy, but it's also a really cool concept, being that it can move between planes, therefore making it travel from like New York to Prague or wherever the hell they want to go. Very convenient. It was originally Valentine's apartment, and I guess what makes it so creepy is this was his after he split from Jocelyn and how he stayed out of the radar from the Clave and whatnot. But he had taken Jocelyn's things and like put them in the drawers and like made it home, and I guess he continued hope that she would come home and live with him someday. I don't know. It just felt really creepy. In retrospect, I mean, you could see how he might be hopeful. I was thoroughly impressed by the dark tone, atmosphere, and the tension that was just persistent in this apartment. Connections or reactions between Jace and Sebastian, and like Jace was kind of on a leash, you could tell, because Jace would be privy to things, but he had to be careful of what he said. He would get like a look, somebody's eyes, like Sebastian's eyes would shift to him, and like Jace would have to, like, could see that Jace would cow down, and like all of this was very like subtle, and it went on through like most of the book, so there was a lot of buildup of this tension. And then Sebastian, there was just something really creepy about him, and he always just seemed to be everywhere, and he would like leave and come back at weird hours, kind of like a ringleader, and all these, and like Jace and Clary were kind of prisoners but like kind of not. It was so weird. Okay, so I forgot to mention, as Sebastian's attack right before Clary and Jocelyn decide to leave is because Sebastian and Jace, she wakes up and Jace is there, and like everything's like he's himself again, and like maybe we thought like maybe he escaped Sebastian or something. They started getting a little bit hot and heavy. So all of a sudden Sebastian's there, and he like barges in and just talks like normal. I felt like that was so weird, and then you could see Jace completely become a different person once Sebastian was in the room. But after that, like, I thought it was really weird. After their whole conversation, that is the moment that he chose to barge in. And beyond that, it was like every time they started to get a little bit intimate, Sebastian was there. And it was not a coincidence. We'll get to that later. Okay, so back to like the other inky, weird atmosphere of the apartment. There was also this like false sense of calm and happiness. And they'd be laughing and joking one minute, and then all of a sudden something would happen, and like you didn't know what set Sebastian off, and he didn't lose his cool or anything, but it was just all of a sudden it was that kind of thing, which puts a person on edge. Like, you don't know when they're gonna snap, which they know what he's capable of, so they kind of start to involve Clary in their plans, sort of. I think he kind of wanted to make it seem as if he let his guard down to kind of invite her in, but he was not. Really. He's just kind of giving her birdseed into the plan. Jace was really weird. He was like himself most of the time, but then also not. And for the most part too, like, you didn't know if he was himself. Maybe he actually legitimately was changing his mind, but we didn't know yet. I think we still didn't feel like he was connected to Sebastian in the way that he was before. Something about it was just very different. Knew that they were connected. If you killed one, you killed the other. So we knew that they were connected. I don't know, there was a connection, we just didn't really fully understand that connection. There was something about Sebastian's plan that made it make sense. And you could see why Jace would legitimately maybe want to switch sides. So we'll get back to the apartment and Sebastian a little bit more later. Now to Alec. Alec has been meeting with Camille because she tells Alec that she can take Magnus's immortality away. I literally could not believe Alec trusted a word out of Camille's mouth. And also that he would even consider that. I know that he and Magnus have been having some issues a little bit, and there has been some uncertainty, which I think is legitimate why Alec feels a little bit the way he feels. I think that he's being very dramatic about it, and he needs to calm the fuck down. Still, the way he was going about this whole mess, it was just, I was so mad at him. This whole thing goes on pretty much to the end of the book. Magnus finds out, of course, and dumps him. And damn, that was a rough breakup. Alec may have deserved it, but I was like, oh, that stings. Can't really expect it any other way though, because Magnus is very, straightforward. He doesn't really beat around the bush or mess around. He just says it like it is, which I appreciate that in a character. But again, I mentioned this before in the last book, Alec was so annoying. He was whiny, he was needy, he was clingy, he was insecure and pouty and dramatic. And it was cringy just watching this play out. But it is realistic. People in relationships get like that. That happens especially when you're young and naive. And for Alec, this is his first real relationship, his first love. And people tend to lose sight of things and reality, and they tend to get really insecure. Like, why is Magnus with me? He's been with so many different people. Not like in a slutty way, but just, he's just hadn't been around a really long time. So he's gonna share his life with people, and that's all that was about. It was just really hard for Alec to wrap his mind around that and accept that. So Simon and Izzy are still dancing around this commitment. They get really close to having sex. They share a bed and all. I think this was at Magnus's actually, yeah. And then I think Izzy was just staying there because she had the freedom to invite Simon into her room. Maya and Jordan run on an errand together to the Praetor Lupus group for Luke, and they reconcile their relationship, and they wind up sleeping together, and that was not cool. I mean, just because Jordan was so pushy, and not pushy in the sense to sleep together, but pushy in the sense of like, do you love me? Because I love you. And just pushing this sense that like, let's just pick up where we left off because I love you so much and I didn't mean it. And like, she forgives him, she still has feelings for him. But so at this point, I'm thinking everyone's having sex. Any day now, Jace and Clary are gonna go ahead and have sex. They kept getting really super close, but then they don't. But then again, we weren't really sure about what the heck was going on with his weird behavior. So good for Clary for having superhuman self-restraint. Like, I think that's her other superpower. Like, the whole club scene, I'm actually super glad that they got interrupted because they were both all messed up on fairy powder, that silver liquid or something like that. And it would have been a bad thing. They have, like, such a beautiful love story despite all the drama. I just love their love. Their first time needs to be as epic as their love story. So back to the people in New York. In order to help Jace, they look towards the Iron Sisters for help to see if there is a weapon that can cut the bond between Jace and Sebastian or kill Sebastian without hurting Jace, which they end up having to hide all this from the Clave because as usual they would just like to kill Jace in order to kill Sebastian, which sadly in this instance, I get it. When you are in a leadership position to look out for the safety of all these people, this bit about the Iron Sisters was really cool because we have yet to meet them. We only knew of their existence. So we get to learn a lot more about the Iron Sisters. Also, Brother Zachariah appears at Magnus's door to help Jace, independently of the Clave and the other Silent Brothers, because of his whole Herondel thing. So right after this, Sebastian and Jace go to the Iron Sister to get their evil cup made from a loyal sister to Valentine. I kept wondering if she was playing two sides. The Iron Sisters have been very mysterious, and now that I know more about them, I'm still very confused on this woman. But at the time, I was really wondering if she was playing two sides. Maybe collecting information for the other sisters who are still loyal to the Clave. So I don't know. Now I have all of these questions regarding the Silent Brothers and the Iron Sisters and their politics, and like the Silent Brothers work closely with the Shadowhunters, but I'm really not sure about the power pyramid in regards to the Clave and the Silent Brothers. It seems like they're equal sometimes, but then the Clave has to listen to the Silent Brothers too on certain things. So if that's the case, why don't the Silent Brothers actually settle more disputes? Brother Zachariah is going off on his own to help Jace. Is he bound to tell the Clave? Again, the tier of power there is just really confusing to me. Like, what are the repercussions? What could the Clave do to him anyways? I don't think that they could do anything to him. So we've heard that the Iron Sisters work alone, but then there's this one Iron Sister who remained loyal to Valentine, and I guess she's been outcasted. So I'm guessing that there's different politics for them as well. She ended up making the cup for Sebastian, but he also told her different intentions. So the Iron Sisters ended up not being very helpful to Izzy and Jocelyn when they went, but that was pretty cool learning about the rules of how to get to the Adamus Citadel where the Iron Sisters live. And don't leave. This is also where we learn about Heavenly Fire. So foreshadowing for the next book, since the title is called City of Heavenly Fire, I think that Clary will get a weapon forged in Heavenly Fire, and then maybe she will kill Sebastian to free Jace, meaning that we have to wait another 1,000 pages to sort all this mess out with Jace. And also, I love that Brother Zachariah is in the picture now. I think that we are getting closer to finding out how he becomes Gem again. Also, are we gonna see Tessa again soon too? So the next plan of action is to summon the demon Azazel, whatever. I don't know how to say it. They're gonna summon this demon. He is actually a fallen angel, and they're risking a lot by summoning him, except he's actually a greater demon as bound to a mountain. Jocelyn wakes up, hears about their plan, and she is so upset. She still doesn't know that Clary has disappeared. She's been gone some time now. Simon finds himself in a position where he has to go ahead and spill the beans. That's not a good time. I actually like how Clary's mom rightfully freaks the fuck out, and she lays into Simon, and then Izzy stands up, lays into her. Izzy and Jocelyn don't have an easy relationship, but anyways, I really liked how she kind of tore into her too. It was like, calm down, like, it's your daughter, you couldn't have stopped her from doing anything she wanted to do anyways. So back to the fairy rings. It almost sounded like I said wings. Back to the fairy rings. I just have to specifically note that this is such a cool trinket. I don't know why, but Clary was not stealthy at all. But when she and Jace were in Venice, he kind of he sees it, and you could tell he knew what it was, but he didn't say anything. I was not sure about what was going to happen. I figured that if Jace noticed, Sebastian definitely noticed it. However, I wasn't sure why Sebastian hadn't said anything or hadn't taken it the moment she arrived. I definitely think Jace knew what it was. He would have known that they were at the Institute. And also knowing Clary and Simon, after the club scene, she notices her ring goes missing. So now we have 3 suspects, because at the club, Meliorn was there. He's very close to the queen, so I'm sure that what I was thinking is, I just feel like it would have gotten out. It's a little bit more far-fetched, but he's the only other person that would have known about the rings. Sebastian, but when did he get the rings from her? She was with Jace the whole time, or Jace. But that seemed unlikely, because it was Jace. But I thought maybe while she was all high on fairy power, it would have been really easy to take something from her. Later, though, we find out that Sebastian had the ring the whole time. But again, when did he steal it? Until now, I realized that maybe he ordered Jace to take it. So I'm thinking that that's what happened. So that makes sense now, but it was really bugging me. That was her lifeline away from whatever the fuck was going on at the apartment. So Simon and everybody, they summon this demon. And then this demon sees the mark of Cain, freaks out, doesn't want to have anything to do with them, and warns them that anyone in line with Simon is going to be at the receiving end of the angel's wrath. So that was actually really surprising. I mean, a greater demon is terrified. So we're all just kind of like, oh, okay. So Simon figures that the angel couldn't kill him either because of the mark. So he thinks that he can summon the angel, in theory. Meanwhile, in Prague, so back to the club scene, Sebastian meets with Meliorn, and I was totally shocked. We get confirmation from Meliorn that Fae Queen and the Fae are siding with Sebastian. But I was thinking, no, it can't be that easy. Maybe because the Fae are fickle, that maybe he's just telling Sebastian that, and then telling the Shadowhunters that, and they're gonna be doing their own fucking thing. So I didn't know what to make of this. So Jace and Sebastian, they finally let her in on the plan to lure demons, and I'm jumping around again. Anyways, I'm sorry, again, this is so disorganized. Tell Clary about their plan to lure the demons to them and then destroy them. Of course, it's a lot more complicated, and it actually started to make sense. They talk about the corruption of the clave, which is so true. We've witnessed it time and time again throughout these books. Like, the Inquisitors are horrible people. They're not good people. So I'm really starting to sympathize here with the people who've been considered rebels, because we have seen a huge injustice and pompous ass clave members like Imogen, who was torturing a kid, Jace, because who his father was? Yeah, that bitch. So things are really tense, and Jace and Clary decide to go rest, and really it's just to escape Sebastian. But then they almost have sex again, and Clary stops it. Jace actually gets pretty miffed, and that is so unlike Jace. I mean, I get it, like, there's a lot of sexual frustration going on there, but I'm just waiting for the two of them to get on with it myself. I was just really mad at his attitude right there. So he leaves, takes a cold shower, and then he comes back to apologize. But what gets me about this is he was telling Clary that he doesn't want to be Nephilim anymore. And I'm like, what? Since when? He loves being a Shadowhunter. It was actually kind of heartbreaking, but I totally can see with everything he's gone through, he hasn't really got to just be a Shadowhunter. He's caught at the forefront of all of this crap. But then I also knew that this had to be Sebastian and Sebastian's feelings. And an Easter egg gets dropped. He happens to have the book A Tale of Two Cities, which was Will Herondale's book. I just thought that that was really cool because he quotes from it a lot. He says that his dad must have given it to Valentine at some point. This may be some foreshadowing or just a cool Easter egg. It's probably not super significant to the plot, but I'm like trash for those little connections. So at this point, things are really picking up. Shoot, I don't have my book with me. Page 390, about how things have changed since he's become open about being gay. And it is so good. Okay, so here it goes. It's not like it's one big bad thing. It's a lot of little invisible things. When Magnus and I were traveling and I'd call from the road, Dad never asked how he was. When I get up to talk in clave meetings, no one listens. And I don't know if that's because I'm young or if it's because of something else. I saw Mom talking to a friend about her grandchildren, and the second I walked into the room, they shut up. Irina Cartwright told me it was a pity no one would ever inherit my blue eyes now. It's not like a stab wound you can protect me from. It's a million little paper cuts every single day. After that, Jace had been gone. He ran some sort of errand, and when he returns, he's really odd. And Sebastian can sense it. This was such a cool moment. So Clary and Jace get some time alone, and he explains everything about how he went to the Iron Sister who made the cup. He went to retrieve the cup. Sebastian had ordered Jace to kill her. So she had a dagger, and she cut him and damaged the rune bound Jace and Sebastian. I was just so excited to have Jace back. Oh my goodness. Sebastian didn't know that it was damaged. Otherwise he would know if you just used like a knife, but he didn't know because it was done with a weapon that was made from heavenly fire. Problem is that weapon turned to ash after it was used. This is another reason why I'm wondering about her connection to the other Iron Sisters, or like what she knew, what she didn't know, because how is it that she just randomly had this specific weapon just laying around? I felt that this never got answered. It just doesn't seem like a weapon someone would have lying around, even if that's what you do is create weapons. It seems like a very specialty weapon for a very specific purpose. How did she know that she needed it? Maybe she could sense it. Like, the Silent Brothers know shit. I don't know. If she truly trusted Sebastian, then why would she have felt the need to have a weapon to protect herself? But that kind of weapon isn't even just to protect herself. It was specifically to cut the bond. Also, maybe she knew what was going on because she did have a connection to the other Iron Sisters. This is driving me crazy. I want answers to this. But then if she had a connection to the other Iron Sisters, why did she go ahead and make the cup? I'm getting heated because I want some answers. I want to know. So the real plan for the cup comes out. He was going to raise Lilith, Mommy Dearest, and make an army of dark Nephilim. Jace wants to turn himself into the clave, even though that they'd probably kill him for all kinds of things, but Jace is a good Shadowhunter, and that's the law of the Shadowhunters, you know? I feel like, so Clary is like, no, you can't do that, like, they're gonna kill you and I can't lose you, so fuck Clary, I was pissed, I was like, no, but I could kind of see her point too, like she was kind of desperate, like, if the second you say something to the clave, like, you are dead. She tells Sebastian about the mark being damaged. Sebastian heals the mark, and he is his little puppet again. So depressing. I also personally felt like there was a better way to go about their escape. Back at the wolf farm, Simon summons Raziel. Raziel takes the mark of Cain from Simon and bestows Glorious, the Archangel's sword that has heavenly fire to kill Sebastian without hurting Jace. Yay! Back at the apartment, Sebastian demands that Clary will be at his side and must dress in this ceremonial garb that was her mom's. And her mom used to wear it when she was with Valentine for some of their ceremony. Awkward. I guess it's kind of awkward. So she is like, no, shit's really picking up, I've got to do something. So she finds out like where they're supposed to go, and she's like, I have got to get word, this is getting really bad, this is getting scary, people are going to die. So she freaks out and she's like, I have to find that ring. And so she goes into, no wait, is that why she goes into the room? Just specifically to find the ring? Anyways, finally makes it into Sebastian's room, snoops around, and finds the ring in his top drawer. I was so stressed out for her at this point. I thought Sebastian was going to come in at any minute, but she finds her ring, she makes contact with Simon, and then suddenly gets cut off. Now on the other end, we have the other chapter from Simon's perspective on his end, and so we get to hear their conversation. But at this point, I was like, what the fuck, Clary? You should have grabbed your ring and left. Or grabbed your ring, pocketed it, snooped around for whatever else you could find, and then got the fuck out of his room. But no, she decides to just hang around in his room and continue talking on her ring. Like I said, girl is like, she's got no stealth. She doesn't think these things out. At least she was able to tell them something helpful. But Sebastian did find her. He took the ring, squished the ring, and I was surprised how fragile the ring was, but whatever. They fight, and yeah. My biggest complaint, why again with the incestiness? It got really bad in this book. While Sebastian and Clary fight, he pins her down and tells her how people used to be married with their siblings and keep the bloodlines strong and like all of that stuff. It just kept getting worse with everything that he said. He proceeds to try to undo her pants. Ugh, I just feel gross even explaining it. Why? When are we gonna get over this? It's definitely not out of love. It's control for Sebastian. That's it. This is control. But that's where it started to make sense why he's always there whenever things started to get heated between Jace and Clary. It was like, he's jealous and he's always like popping up, like, no. But his reactions were just a bit odd because he was obviously seeming to like try to keep them apart. And he was definitely jealous from being like the third wheel, but I didn't think he was jealous like two guys fighting over a girl. I thought it was just from being the third wheel, and I still think that. Or maybe it was a little bit of a brotherly protectiveness, but that didn't really make sense since they didn't like grow up together. And the whole protectiveness, like he's always saying, oh hey little sister, like I'm here to take care of you or protect you. It's all false anyways, but I did not see that he wanted her that way. But anyways, this is where he explains that the whole plot to for Clary to get the rings was intentional, and that the queen could hear everything that she was telling Simon. So damn, that sucks. Like my heart sank at this. I was very sad. I was like trying to think of all the things that she was telling Simon and like, is there any secrets? Probably not. But I also wondered if Sebastian was bluffing. He claims that he's been talking to the Seelie Queen, and I was still holding on to some hope that maybe the Seelie Queen, if she wants to be on the winning side, because we all know that the good guys are gonna win, no matter how helpless they seem, the good guys will end up winning. So maybe I was holding out hope that she would end up choosing their side, saying that they do have a little bit of an advantage. Okay, so then Alec and Izzy, they end up explaining everything to their mom. They found the location, but obviously they can't just go off on their own independent mission. There's gonna be a bunch of they need to tell the clave now. Now is the time that they need to tell the clave. So they run and tell everything to their mom. But this also puts her in a really bad position. Okay, so as they're like really fighting shit out, Clary and Sebastian is are really fighting shit out. Clary like makes it seem like, so she planned this whole thing. I thought it was awesome. It made it seem, she runs to the door and starts writing a rune, but it made it look like she got interrupted and didn't finish the rune. So they leave the house and everything like that. They leave the apartment, but when they close the door, it disappears. Like, it's gone for good. Clary's rune destroyed the apartment, but it only was active when they left and when they closed the door. It would destroy the apartment. Like, that was the best. That was awesome. I loved it. I love the cleverness. I love that they finally outwitted stupid Sebastian. So they're out in the world, they're out in the field, and they're doing this whole ritual thing. Unfortunately, but it's predictably successful. His first victim was Amatis, and that was horrible. Like, Amatis was very sweet, and I felt so bad for her. She lost her husband, she lost her brother, and like, I don't know, she was so nice to Clary. Like, I felt horrible. But also, like, why Amatis? It was very sadistic to go all the way to Idris to retrieve her. So the fact that he chose her is intentional somehow. There is a reason. We just don't know yet. Jace even says that Sebastian does not do anything without a purpose or some ulterior motive. So I can definitely be sure that there is a reason. So finally Simon makes it with the sword. Clary winds up stabbing Jace though. This was so annoying. But it's supposed to only burn out the evil, right? And break the bond between him and Sebastian. So I guess we can't kill Sebastian. So obviously, I don't know why, but obviously I should have known we can't kill Sebastian yet, despite my hopefulness, because we need him for the last book. Like, I should have guessed. It's like a formula for the antagonist to get 3 books now, to get built up, come to a climax before the final takedown. So it's cool, it's predictable, but it's cool. I'm not complaining because it's how we get there. If that counts. But I can see now why a lot of people are feeling like these books get a bit repetitive. Not necessarily these books, but as we get into the next series coming up, the next trilogy coming up, what is it? Like Lord of Shadows and those books, a lot of people were criticizing that it's very repetitive. I hope that I don't feel that way. I hope that I still love it, but I'm really excited regardless. I just hope that I fall in love with the characters as much. I think that what makes the predictability okay is that we get all of the little things and the side stories and the Easter eggs that connect everything together, that connect our generations together, that we're still learning new things about the world, and we get romance, and it's probably not necessary to the plot all the time, but it's fascinating to me and adds to the characters. Even the side characters are so richly developed, as I've said before. So what a way to end this book. Jace is pronounced dead on the last page. Then we flip the page, and there's the longest epilogue I have ever seen in my life. It's like 40 pages. But thank goodness Jace is in the infirmary. He's alive, but he's got heavenly fire stuck inside of him. Now he can't touch anyone or he will burn them. So of course, another thing to keep Jace and Clary apart. Not touching, no sex. Cassandra Clare is just fucking with us now. I'm sure they will inevitably end up hooking up by the end of the last book, but I know what's gonna happen now. He is now the ultimate weapon. So we have a little bit more of Brother Zachariah while they're waiting for, Jace can't have any visitors right now, but Brother Zachariah talks to Clary, and I really just thought that this was really interesting because as the reader, I know his history. I know what his life was like and who his biggest love was as a human, as Jem, but nobody else does. Clary does not know, Jace does not know, and so it's kind of cool, like feeling like I have a secret and like that, like I'm privy to, you know? Jace shows so much growth and maturity. He finally is showing love and appreciation. Finally accepting that he's not a monster and that people can love him and people do love him. It's not his fault who his dad is or his upbringing, how his upbringing went. I loved it. It had me crying, like for real. And also his parabatai bond. His conversation with Alec, like I just could not get enough of it. And then, because there's a lot going on in this book, to finally wrap it up, because this is like the longest vlog ever. Honestly, I'm starting to think that I'm gonna have to put the 3rd book separate, which is kind of bugging me emotionally because 3 books, 1 trilogy, 1 video, right? But like, I don't know. We can't have this video go for like 5 hours. So finally, to wrap up, Marseille finds a severed angel wing with a note from Sebastian. Jace also gets a letter from his father. It was in Amatis's things. So, angel wings. Okay, this is huge. We really don't actually know all that much about angels, except the fact that they seem to not give a fuck about Earth's demony problems or the Shadowhunters. And now I'm actually kind of feeling confused because there is the angel that bound Valentine. There's the angel that Valentine had bound. He had been stuck there for years, bound and trapped. I assume that he was kind of man-sized, but not to the epic proportions that the angel they summoned in this book was. He was enormous, too powerful, and too scary. But granted, Lilith is an angel and could probably face off with an angel. I don't know. That the demon they summoned, Azazel, he seemed pretty fucking terrified. So how did Sebastian get a hold of an angel wing? I'm sure that we'll end up finding out by the end of the next book, but also I think that I'm personally a little bit of a disadvantage just because I don't read a lot of angel books or books with a lot of angel lore. Just like with fairy tales, I think with fairy stories, the more books I'm reading, I'm kind of picking up on different things that all seem to be universal, like fairies don't lie, they're allergic to iron, things like that. But I don't like, this is I think the most intense angel lore I've seen in a book, so I don't know. Anyways, I guess that wraps up this part of the vlog, and I will see you for the next book, City of Heavenly Fire. Yeah.